So good evening, Prep seniors, and good evening, Prep senior parents. Just take that greeting in for a minute. Unless you have another son coming to Prep, you're probably not going to hear that again. But just for a minute, before the journey of college, or for paying for it, before the journey of finding a job, or supporting him if he doesn't get one, before the journey of maybe getting married, becoming a father, before the rest of your life, gentlemen, just pause for a second and take it in. Enjoy this beautiful and, dare I say, sacred setting. You are literally gathering at the corner of Grand and Warren, the crossroads where young men from over 150 communities from Connecticut to Cherry Hill, New Jersey, converge to form one Prep family, Prep Magic. And it's literally a spectacular corner. Right there, it's spectacular. When you stand on that iconic corner with Prep at your back, because Prep's always got your back, right? With Prep at your back, you look east down Grand Street and you see the New York City skyline with all its possibilities. And then you look south down Warren Street to see the Statue of Liberty with all of its hope. And I encourage you, if you haven't done it yet, try to do it one more time as a Prep student. It's right there on that corner. It's pretty spectacular. This location of Grand and Warren is so vitally important to the Prep story. And I don't know if you know this, there were times when we almost left this area. Can you imagine that? Prep not being right here? During World War I, when we were sharing a campus with St. Peter's College, the college had to shut down. And then 12 years later, when it reopened, they decided to move to Kennedy Boulevard. But we stayed. Then in the 1960s, there was serious discussion at the province level regarding Prep moving out to what is now Union Catholic in Scotch Plains. Can you imagine that? Scotch Plains, great city, not for us though. But where we admittedly, we would have had a larger campus. We would have had a larger campus, but we stayed right here, remaining true to our urban roots. And then again in the 70s, with Prep experiencing declining enrollment, folks said the area was too rough. The area was never gonna make it, and it was hindering our ability to grow. But we stayed. Now these days, obviously it's a little different. Now this area has become known nationally as the Gold Coast, and we literally get offers often to buy parts of our campus. But we hold tight, we take hold, we stay. We stay because this is our home. Because this rock, this literal rock, Paulus Hook, the most solid ground in this once marshy area of downtown Jersey City, it is this rock upon which we literally have built our identity, our mission, and our tradition. Upon this rock. Upon this rock. It is obviously difficult to think about that phrase without thinking about Jesus staring at Peter and saying, "Upon this rock, I will build my church." St. Peter's Prep, maybe said another way, the prep school of St. Peter. And of course we look up to him, right? We look up to him. But like all of us, he is imperfect. He is so imperfect. Peter is like Mr. Imperfect. He was so afraid sometimes. He was so afraid, he denies even knowing his best friend, Jesus. He falls asleep when Jesus asks him to pray with him in the garden. Peter, he's afraid of high winds and waves, despite being a professional fisherman and having the creator of the universe in the boat with him. He's afraid. He's impulsive, whether he tries to attack a group of armed soldiers or when he witnesses the miracle of the transfiguration. Instead of just marveling at seeing Christ and Elijah and Moses, he gets all giddy about his role and wants to build 3 tents. This is the same guy that Jesus looked in the eye and said, "Get behind me, Satan." Probably don't want Jesus saying that to me, but he said it to Peter. He fails at his faith just as much as he gets it right. But this is our guy, our namesake. He shows us what we can be despite who we think we are with all of our limitations and faults. He shows us the answer to the question, who am I? Who am I to change the world? With the answer, who am I not to? When Jesus called this youthful, enthusiastic, sometimes foolish, sometimes quick-mouthed, sometimes impulsive fisherman, it certainly wasn't because he was perfect. But maybe, just maybe, it was because he always got up every time he fell. Every single time he got up. And you couldn't break him. He was a rock. Maybe he's not Mr. Imperfect after all. Of course, Peter wasn't lucky enough to go to a Jesuit high school like you and me. But maybe he is Mr. Open to Growth. Now, I'm glad, my prep seniors, that you are all intellectually competent, religious loving, and committed to doing justice, or maybe on your way for the most part. But none of that happens unless you are open to growth, like Peter, with a great desire to not just learn, but to learn more. A desire to not just live a faith-filled life, but a desire to have a soul-filled life with boundless faith. Not just a desire to be strong in mind, in heart, and body, but a desire to have the confidence to be someone's rock. And of course, humble enough to ask questions like, can you help me? Will you walk the road with me? Will you forgive me? And I know that sometimes, gentlemen, sometimes like Peter, you might fall asleep when you should be working on a project, or your anger might get the best of you and you send a nasty text, or you let the volume of your voice control you. Or sometimes you might just be really afraid. But just keep growing. It's not just keep going, it's just keep growing. Remember, as Addison tells us, we are not human beings, we are humans becoming, and you are becoming a man, a good man, a really good man, and in a few days, a prep grad who can and must change the world. I expect nothing less from you. I love you. Let's go prep.